Hello and welcome. My name is Natty Cash, and we are back with some NFL predictions. Week 10 already in the season, right? We're more than halfway through now, and so we're getting to the nitty gritty types of matchups. We're going to see which teams are getting eliminated from playoff contention, which ones are going to push forward and be a factor at the end of the year. So, let's get into our predictions. So, starting off with, we've got an AFC North matchup here with the Cincinnati Bengals going out to Baltimore on Thursday night. This matchup's already happened. The reverse matchup in Cincinnati has happened, and it was an overtime thriller with Baltimore pulling it out. And so even though Cincinnati's 4-5 and Baltimore is, I think, 6-3, this is going to be a tight matchup. I think division rivals, they know each other well. And so I think it's going to be back and forth. It could be within one possession. It would be really crucial if Cincinnati could get the win here, because if they can, that puts them to 5-5, and now they're starting to look up for the rest of the season to try to put a winning record together, maybe pushing for a playoff spot. Where then Baltimore, I think, is continuing to try to push Pittsburgh and make sure that Baltimore can repeat as division winners. So they need this win, too, to help in their division standings. Again, this is going to be back and forth. I am going to give the edge to the Ravens here, probably within 7 points, maybe, again, similar, like a 3-point victory. I don't know if it'll go to overtime this time, but I do think Baltimore in total is a little bit more sound overall, and they're going to get the win here. Next, we have the Denver Broncos going out to Kansas City for an AFC West matchup. This will be an interesting one, as Denver is maybe doing a little bit better than people thought this year, sitting at 5-4. Certainly in a position where if they can still put some wins together, they could push and be kind of in that playoff contention. The Chiefs, the only team 8-0 after a very tight Monday night matchup against the Tampa Bay Bucks. That was a really good game to watch. It's just unfortunate that it's based on a coin flip that the Chiefs basically end up winning. So, there's certainly a scenario where they could get a loss at some point. I don't see it happening here at home, and I don't think Denver's just at the point yet where they can be challenging. Although, as I say, division matchups always seem to be a little bit tighter than other ones, so expect this one to be kind of within 7 points. Again, the Chiefs haven't necessarily been blowing people out of the water, so I think it could be a close game, but I do see the Chiefs going forward and becoming 9-0 for the start of the season. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills against the Indianapolis Colts. Bills win a tight one at home against the division rivals, the Dolphins, and the Colts lose a close one to the Vikings. The Colts going with Joe Flacco now, right? No longer Anthony Richardson. I don't know if it's the same kind of spark. Like, there's not something necessarily like. It's not like Joe Flacco is necessarily an energizer, and especially at his age. He's going to be a competent quarterback, but I don't know if there's much there. Like, I felt like even Minnesota was a little bit underwhelming, and Colts couldn't take advantage of that. Buffalo did well to fight off the Dolphins, especially with Tua returning at quarterback. But I do see Buffalo getting the win here. It's hard pressed for me to see the Colts being successful down the stretch here. It does seem like with Anthony Richardson being benched that they're kind of looking for the future and maybe just trying to put some wins together, see what they have out of the rest of the squad, and we'll kind of see what's moving forward. But it doesn't look good right now in Indianapolis, and I think another loss is on the table for them. Next, we have the Tennessee Titans going out to LA to face the Chargers. Titans did well at home to get the win over the New England Patriots and to get to 2-6 so far. First win in a while. And the Chargers then going 5-3 after a solid win away from home out in Cleveland. When I look at these teams, again, Tennessee, I'm not expecting too much from them. I don't really see them in this scenario getting consecutive wins. I think the Chargers are solid. I think they, are well coached. Jim Harbaugh is doing a good job there. I think they'll get the wins against teams that they need to, and challenge well against those that are above them. But so I am giving the win to the Chargers here. It just seems like that's going to be part of the game plan. I think defense will be solid, and the offense will do enough to get them the victory here. So Chargers with the win on this one. Next, let's take a look at the interconference matchups. The first one we have here is two rookie quarterbacks going at it, where the Patriots are going to visit the Bears. Patriots' tough loss against Tennessee, and again, there's a lot of learning for Drake May to do. And for the Bears, a kind of underwhelming performance against the Cardinals. I think this one could be closer than what people would expect. I think if Chicago is pushing for a playoff spot or to push in that direction, they need to have this win here because they have a tough schedule coming up, and a win here is kind of a must win if they're going to push forward. I do see Chicago having enough to get the win here. I think that maybe some more games under Drake May's belt is going to be helpful to him, but I see Chicago getting the victory here, getting to 5-4. Still kind of being in that conversation in a playoff spot, and we'll see where they take it from here. Next is an interesting matchup where we have the 6-2 Pittsburgh Steelers up against the 7-2 Washington Commanders. Both teams, I think, doing much better than what people had projected, where they're both leading their divisions at the time of this recording. And I think this is a really good matchup. The thing that's going to make me pick a team here is, both teams have done well. I think that the Steelers, however, especially with how well Russell Wilson has been at quarterback, I think this is a team that's scary. And on top of the fact that they had a bye week, they had an extra week to plan for Jaden Daniels and what he can do. And I think, one, Mike Tomlin is a great coach, and two, Pittsburgh's defense is going to be able to make that happen for them. So I do give the win to Pittsburgh here. I think Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback, and this game could go either way, but I am going to give the edge to Pittsburgh. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings going out to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Vikings, after their loss to the Lions, feel like they've either made some mistakes, or maybe teams are trying to sort them out, and they lost to the Rams, and then even the game against the Colts was probably a lot closer than what people had anticipated. Where then the Jaguars at 2-7, certainly struggling, but it's probably like mainly of their losses, like they had against Philly and they had against Green Bay, are within a touchdown. And so it's a case where, like, many of the games they played, they could have gotten wins out of it and been much better. They've just been very much maybe unlucky or not able to finish out a game. I'm not sure what it is for Jacksonville, but they're in most of the games that they played. I think there's only 2 of their losses that have been kind of more than 1 touchdown away. So they're interesting to watch, and this could be a tricky matchup for Minnesota here. I initially looked at this and say, well, Minnesota's the better team, and they're here, but I feel like they're not the same as how hot they've started, and Jacksonville is maybe looking for that opportunity to take advantage of a team like this. And so I'm going to go a little bit kind of a strange pick here, but I'm going with Jacksonville at home against Minnesota here. I might come to regret this pick, but I think Jacksonville, they've been in enough games, and maybe Minnesota hasn't been necessarily as strong as they did to start the season, and so I think Jacksonville is going to come in and get the victory here. Next, we have the New York Jets going out to Arizona to play the Cardinals. Cardinals have been doing pretty solid. They have 3 wins in a row under their belt. If you look at the standings, they're sitting on top of the AFC West with a 5-4 record. Very surprising of how the NFC West has turned out thus far. And the Jets, again, really have been underwhelming, although they had a very solid game to beat the Houston Texans. And maybe that's the upper trajectory that they're looking for, a win like that to then start going on a run. This one's a tough one because I think Carolina is a solid team. And I think the Jets, they may have enough momentum that they're going to start playing well, and especially with how good the offense can be. But we have to see that happen. So, again, I'm going in a very maybe weird direction. I'm actually going to go for the Cardinals at home against the Jets. Again, this could be back and forth, but I do see the Cardinals getting a win here. They'd go to 4 straight wins, which is pretty crazy, and gives them a really good shot to be NFC West champions if they can continue the form they're in. Next up, we have 2 division leaders at the moment, the Detroit Tigers and the Houston Texans. Taking a look at last week, the Texans lost on Thursday night to the Jets in New York, and the Lions had a very strong case to be the NFC North champions by beating Green Bay out in Lambeau Field. Detroit just seems like a solid team, and even though they had lost Aiden Hutchinson, I don't know if there's much that's going to take this team down at this time of the year. Houston showed a little bit of vulnerability against New York, and I am curious if they're going to be able to bounce back into this. I think this is going to be a fun watch, no matter what happens, but I am saying and giving the hot hand to Detroit here. Detroit can come in, get a solid win on the board, continue to lead the NFC, which I think there's a good chance that they could be at the top of the NFC by the end of the year, and they're going to get the solid win against the Texans. Next, we have the Miami Dolphins going out to LA to face the Rams on Monday night. The Dolphins, with Tua back now for the last couple games, they've looked solid. They haven't been able to put a win on the board, but they've been right in the games against Buffalo, and I think it was Arizona was their other game. Unfortunately, just couldn't get the win there. And I did predict, even with Tua being healthy at the beginning of the year, that they may not be as strong as they were the previous year and might have some slip-ups here and there. And that's kind of what I'm noticing so far, that even with Tua healthy, they're seeing some slip-ups. Rams had a very tough start to the year, but I think a lot of that was based on injuries. And when I watched the matchup against the Vikings a couple weeks back, they looked pretty solid. Going into from this last week, they had a tight overtime win against the Seahawks, a division matchup, and that's going to be huge for their NFC West hopes. They're going to be looking to push for a division title there as well. This one I think is going to be really close. I think offenses are going to be raring to go. This could be a high-scoring game. I am going to give the advantage, though, to the Rams. I do think they're pretty solid. They've got some veteranship there with Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and I think Puka Nacua, if he's healthy, then is a solid option there. I think they will just have enough over the Dolphins to get the win here. Really, it'll be tough for the Dolphins because with a loss like that, that'll put them at 2-7, and it's going to be hard to really come back from that. But I think the Rams are slightly better than the Dolphins are coming into this game, so I'm giving the Rams the victory. Next, let's take a look at some NFC matchups. There's 4 on the schedule this week. We've got the New York Giants versus the Carolina Panthers. Both teams kind of struggling this year, 2-7 records. And this one is really up in the air of who wants it more and perhaps, or who wants it less. If these teams are maybe targeting some top picks, maybe this is the game that's going to be the tiebreaker between some top picks, overall picks, and we'll see what happens with that. But in this scenario, I think Carolina is maybe a little bit stronger at this point. When I look at some of the recent scores, like the Giants played well against the Commanders, but I usually give the edge to when things are closer for division rivals. The Panthers did well to get a win against New Orleans, and I think that's going to be a huge boost for them. But like looking further on, Panthers were only a couple touchdowns from the Broncos. I think the Giants might have had a bye. So even with the bye week, then they couldn't get a win over the Commanders. I think Carolina at the moment is a little bit better, and with the home field advantage, I think I'm giving the edge to Carolina, get their third win of the season. Next up, we have an NFC South matchup where we have the Atlanta Falcons facing the New Orleans Saints. Head coach fired from New Orleans, and so now we'll kind of see what happens with New Orleans moving forward. The scary part for Atlanta, though, is that usually with a head coach firing or a big change, there's a big boost that happens from that, and they're at home. And I think, if I remember correctly, when these two matched up together earlier in the year, it was a pretty tight matchup, if I can find that. I don't know if I can here. Let's see. No, I don't know. I think I can find that. Maybe someone in the comments can put that down. Oh, yes, there it is. It was a 26-24 victory for Atlanta, so it was pretty darn close. And now at home, New Orleans has a chance to kind of reverse that. Atlanta, again, is probably one of the leaders for the NFC South and is kind of working towards that. But, still having, they got a good win against Dallas, but and then that tight win against Tampa Bay. So they're on a roll. I'm just concerned division matchups are always closer than what would be normally predicted based on the records. And you can't count out that coach firing boost that sometimes happen. I'm going to go with the upset here and say that the Saints are going to come in. They're going to get a surprise win over the Falcons, and be able to put one in the division total for them. So I'm going to give New Orleans the victory here. Next, we have the 49ers on Sunday going out to Tampa Bay. Tough set of fixtures for Tampa Bay, where they just came off of that very tight overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Credit to their offense. I think Baker Mayfield's doing an excellent job, especially when you don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in your lineup. Like that, all the other receivers has stepped up. The use of tight ends has been good, and I really just want to commend how they're doing so far. The tough part is this: San Francisco, despite their struggles this year, are still a solid team, and when you come off of a bye, I think it gives you a significant boost here. And this is just maybe unfortunate circumstances for Tampa Bay, but I think the 49ers can come in here and get a win. Do I think Tampa Bay could win this game? I do think they could, especially because San Francisco is not the same as what they were last year. But I think with that extra rest, extra planning, I'm going to give the slight edge to San Francisco in this one. And finally, we have an NFC East rivalry matchup. The Eagles going to face the Dallas Cowboys. When I look at this, like the Eagles I see as probably the most likely team. Even though the Commanders are leading, I think the Eagles maybe have a little bit more. They have a little bit more veteran leadership there. And I think they can eventually go and win the NFC East. Dallas, there's things that are not working there, and especially with Dak Prescott injured now, I think it's going to be really tough for them to get a win here. So I am going with the Eagles here. That's going to put the Cowboys at 3-6. You wonder how long is Mike McCarthy going to be there as a coach? Maybe they won't let him go because their quarterback's injured. But still, it hasn't been a very exciting season for Cowboys fans, and I do think the Eagles can go into Dallas and get the win. So those are my picks. I'll scroll back so that you can take a look at all of them. I was 10-5 last week in my predictions, so I'm hoping for maybe a similar or better picks this time around. Thank you so much for watching, and we're going to keep doing this every single week. So thank you for watching, and yeah, like and subscribe. Put a comment down with your own picks if you want, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.